Yeah. Okay, come over now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with me today. I first want to point out that this operation would not have been possible without our colleagues from not only social services, but the police departments. In this county, we are exceptionally blessed with professional law enforcement, whether you're in the cities or in the county. And this is one more example of what we do every day. We work together. I could not be more proud of my folks. And when I say my folks, I'm not only talking about the men and women that work with me at the sheriff's office, but when I talk about my folks, I talk about my friends at the police departments. We are represented today by the Deputy Chief Stewart from the Haines City Police Department, Chief Velasquez from the Lake Wells Police Department, Chief Teague from the Lake Hamilton Police Department, Lieutenant King from the Auburndale Police Department, Chief Garcia from the Lakeland Police Department, and he will also speak in a few minutes. We have with us Samantha from Celaya Freedom. We have Sarah from Children's Home Society. And of course, we have Dr. Marianne from One More Child. Dr. Marianne and I speak to you often because a top priority in this community is protecting victims, whether they be children or adults. And this was a human trafficking operation. Our team of deputies and police officers, in just a very few days, arrested 102 people. Now, I'm going to go through what I think are some of the more interesting ones, and then we're going to hear from our other speakers, and then we'll take questions after that. But first and foremost, we celebrate the fact that we believe we've identified 3 victims of human trafficking. Sometimes we do investigations, and try as we may, we cannot identify our victims of human trafficking. And they're some of the most difficult victims to work with, and that's why we bring in the experts that are here with us today. Because the moment we arrest someone or take someone into custody that came here to perform sexual conduct for money, we don't treat them initially as a suspect of a crime. We treat them as a potential victim of human trafficking. So they are immediately counseled by our experts, and you'll hear from them in just a minute. We are pleased. This is a Hispanic female. She's 17 years of age. And let me tell you a little history on her. Back in 2019, when she was only 15 years old, she met her trafficker in another country. This trafficker, she and her mother thought were her friends. They were all just moving around the different countries. May the 2021, our victim of human trafficking with her mother came here from Colombia via Mexico. The mom entered the country illegally. And that's important to understand. The mom entered the country illegally, and she was met in the United States by the trafficker who she had originally met in the Dominican Republic or Guatemala. So we highly suspect that the victim's mom may also be involved or a victim of human trafficking. We know this deal was set up by her trafficker. He's not in custody, he's under investigation, and I can assure you that we're going to do our best to locate him. Now, she came to the undercover site to perform sex for $230, and she was only 17 years old. So, as I said, immediately, we turned this child over to our experts, and you'll hear more in a minute. The 17-year-old said, well, I thought he was my friend. Well, he was her pimp, and he was trafficking her. So then we found 2 more human trafficking victims who were only 20 years of age. One of them was from Utah, the other one was from Mexico. They were 20 years of age. The young lady from Mexico is here illegally. And she came here with the lady from Utah to engage in sex for $550. This was set up by a pimp for this deal to occur. They don't have any previous criminal history. They're young girls, but they're being taken advantage of by these pimps. Ladies and gentlemen, what's scary about this is we suspect many more of these young ladies are also victims of human trafficking, but they would not work with us. They would not admit that they were victims of human trafficking. So as a result, we weren't able to even get to the first step with them. These 3 we celebrate because we were able to get to the first step. So if we'd only made 3 arrests in the entire week from all of the resources we put together, we would have been celebrating today. But there's much more to look at. As you know, I always explain to you so you get an idea about what's really happening in these operations. And here's Idris Carrick. He's 32 years of age. He's from Bosnia. He is an adult protective investigator for DCF in Pinellas County. Oh, by the way, I understand he's in the process of being terminated. Do you understand what I just said to you? He investigates adult exploitation. He investigates abuse and fraud against the elderly on the other end of the age spectrum from what he was actually doing himself. He's a bad man. He needs to be out of the system, and he needs to be in jail, and that's where he is. Now get this. In order to get away from his wife, he agreed to take the kids to karate, and then, oh, by the way, I'll take them to their mother-in-laws. So he was having to work in excuses so he could get away from Pinellas County and zip over to Polk County in order to do the nasty deed for which he was arrested. Then there's Alicia Tucker. She's 36. She's from Orlando. She was in possession of cocaine. She had an outstanding warrant for trafficking in oxycodone. She's got a long criminal history. She has 52 prior criminal charges and or arrest. Did you hear me? 52. And she's only 36 years old. She's been arrested 7 times in Orange County, in the Orlando area, for prostitution. She's a slow learner. Nothing we've done in the criminal justice system has stopped her criminal conduct. I suggest it's time she go to state prison. That may be a novel thought if you're from Orange County, but this is Polk County, and we lock you up for doing bad things. And then there's Frances Hall. Frances Hall is a specialist. You see, she's in the kinky sex. She brings like a bag full of all kinds of things that we're not going to talk about, we're not going to show you, but she's like the wild deal here. She showed up to be a dominant in a dominant submissive event. She was charging $175. Well, newsflash, she got arrested. She claims her real job is data entry. We're not going to let her enter data at the jail, but her data was entered at the jail. This lady will get you in trouble fast. Then there's Shelby Atkinson. He's 49. He's from Hickory Street in Lakeland. He showed up on his birthday and was bragging that it's his birthday. Well, happy birthday, Shelby. How did that work for you? Well, we gave him a birthday gift. We gave him a nice set of handcuffs. And then we gave him a special meal at the jail. And then we gave him free room and board, all for his birthday. And when our undercovers negotiated the price with him, because it was his birthday, we offered him a $10 discount. Now, he certainly had a birthday that he'll remember forever. But there's more to the story. He has a long criminal history. He's got 30 previous charges from California. Well, Shelby, I suggest you pack up and go back to California. You know, they're not so tough on that stuff out there. In fact, I don't think California's tough on much of anything. So go back to California. Obviously, you didn't learn out there in the criminal justice system. We're going to give you a new-found lesson here in the state of Florida. He's, by the way, employed as a handyman. They didn't say what kind of handyman, but I highly suggest you don't hire this guy. Then there's Carlos Linanos. He's 30. He lives in Lakeland. He works for Purina Cattle Chow, or he actually blends vitamins into cattle food. Well, I guess that didn't occupy enough of his time, so he decided he'd have a half hour of sex for $75. It didn't work out that way. But do you know why he said he did that? Are you ready? You know, you can't make this stuff up. He's upset with his wife, so he decided to have sex to get back at her. That's right. He's married. He's mad with his wife. You know, I just don't believe at a marriage counseling session that they would have suggested that to Carlos in order to make things better at home. But anyway, he was arrested. Newsflash, it's not his first time. In 2019, in a similar operation to this, the same undercover detective who works for LPD caught him last time. That's right. He still hadn't paid off his $6,400 in fines, but he did have them worked down to $1,300 before he got arrested again. So, you know, he's already paid a ton for that sex, and now we've caught him again. So it is our prayer that upon conviction, they'll give him some time in the county jail and another $5,000 fine plus court cost. I suggest that his wife married a real loser. Then there's Antonio Young. He's 47. He works for the city of Lake Wales as a groundskeeper. He came all the way to the undercover location in Lakeland for sex, and he was carrying a firearm, but he does have a concealed weapons permit. He was not a convicted felon. This is a misdemeanor arrest. He showed up with $100, even though we told him it was $125. Antonio, you still owe us $25 for your non-sex event. He's on his way to jail, or in jail. Maybe he's bonded out by now. Then there's Eric Hawkins, 43. In Marion County, they have a Marion Senior Director of Transportation. Senior Services Director of Transportation. That's what he was. They didn't like the fact that he came here to engage in sex, and they immediately terminate him, as we're told. So not only did he not get sex, he got arrested, and he lost his job. Eric, how'd that work for you, buddy? We talk a lot about child predators, and you all know my #1 focus in life is to find these folks that want to attack our children. So while we're doing this undercover operation, our detectives who are specialists were online cruising the different social media sites, and guess what? We found Donald Spencer. He's 64 years of age. That's right. He's been down here about 1 year from Pennsylvania. And he's already in trouble here for very nasty things. He lives in Mulberry. He traveled to the undercover location thinking he was going to have sex with a 14-year-old child, a little girl. He told her online that he was going to teach her and monitor her and help her grow into this world of sex. That's right. So we charged him with traveling and attempted lewd battery. Then, get this, we're never at a loss for quotes as long as we do these operations. Here's what he told the detectives. I knew it was probably a sting, but I had to sacrifice myself in case it wasn't. Are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me? This guy's got 5 brain cells, 3 of them aren't working, 1 of them's used to operate the BB he's got for a brain. He came up to the operation, admitted he knew it was probably a sting, but that's how strong their desire is to have sex with children. Now, he was very, very nasty in his chat to what he thought was a little 14-year-old girl. All of this was social media driven. He was prowling children's social media sites looking for a child to attack. If this entire operation had have only caused this person to be arrested, it certainly would have been worth it. Then there's Pikachu. No, we didn't arrest him. But Pikachu, you see, is a co-conspirator, not a willing co-conspirator. Because the next guy that I'm going to introduce you to, as he's grooming this child, makes the statement, we want to cuddle with Pikachu and have sex in the back of the car. Did you hear what I said? Well, I talked to Pikachu. He confessed. He turned state's evidence and said, dude, I had nothing to do with this pervert. He just bought me off the shelf someplace. Pikachu doesn't like this. You know, if you play Pokemon or you're familiar with that, it's something like gotta catch them all. Well, our detectives from the sheriff's office and the police departments, I don't know that we caught them all, but we caught a bunch of them, didn't we? Yes, we did. Who's our guy who wants to cuddle with Pikachu and have sex with children? Theodore E. Jones, 28 years of age. He's either from Kissimmee or Satellite Beach. We found addresses for each. He's a chef at the Hangar in Disney Springs. That's where we found him. Our detectives were able to run him down, and he was there. And he had old Pikachu in the car. That's right. He told us what he thought was a 13-year-old child, a little girl, that he wanted to have sex with her for the first time. And that when they finished, he wanted to keep her panties. And he didn't come to the undercover location, so we went to him. We had to rescue Pikachu from that nasty environment. But more importantly, we had to find children who he was seeking. And he was seeking them once again on social media sites. He was using his computer. He was transmitting nude photographs of himself. That's right. To what he believed to be a 13-year-old child. He said very nasty things to this 13-year-old child to go along with the very ugly, vile, nude photographs that he sent. So, you want evidence that he had Pikachu? There he is, hugging her. Pikachu said, I didn't like the dude from the beginning. So with that, we'll put Pikachu back to take a nap. It's been a long weekend for him after all. And I want to first introduce the Chief of Police in Lakeland, Ruben Garcia, for a few comments. And as soon as he speaks, then we'll have Samantha speak, and then we'll have Marianne speak. Chief?
Hey, good morning. Chief Ruben Garcia, Lakeland Police Department. We're certainly honored to be here in partnership with the Sheriff's Department and our other agencies throughout the county to bring these suspects to justice. 102 sad stories, truth be told. Some of them great stories in the fact that our service providers here, our local service providers, will be able to wrap the services around them and save some of these children that were victims of human trafficking. But for the greater most part of them, they're accountable for their actions. They're being held accountable for their actions. And we're certainly glad that we were able to be a part of that and bring them to justice. I never want to miss the opportunity to thank the men and women that work out in the trenches to do these undercover operations. A long week of seeing a lot of stuff they probably never wanted to see, a long week of dealing with a lot of folks that they probably wouldn't want to deal with on an ordinary basis, but they're willing to go out into those unseedy places and make those contacts in order to safeguard our whole community. So my hat really goes off to them for the great work they did. So again, we're certainly glad to be a part of this operation. We thank our sheriff for being the lead to keep this county safe from this kind of activity. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Samantha Cole with Sail of Freedom, and Sail of Freedom is an organization that treats the survivors of human trafficking and sexual exploitation. And we would like to thank all the different law enforcement agencies within Polk County that allowed us to walk beside them in this opportunity to put an end to human trafficking. The efforts made and the arrests made in this operation are huge steps in the movement to end human trafficking and allow freedom for the identified victims to start their road of recovery. So we thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Marianne Thomas, and I am with One More Child, and we are honored to once again be working alongside Polk County Sheriffs as well as all of the police departments to help end human trafficking in Polk County. We know that Sheriff Grady Judd has a heart for victims, and his people readily identify victims and immediately ask for services. And that is what we want to see. We do work with children ages 10 to 28 who have been identified as human trafficking victims. So we're able to provide that wraparound service as we move on from here. It's not just about identifying them, it's about helping them afterwards. And also, I would like to highlight something the sheriff said. These people, these traffickers, came as a friend. And so for parents who are watching, who are listening to this, please know it's not the boogeyman out there that's coming after your child. It's someone who already has contact with your child, someone who knows your child on social media, someone who already has relationship with your child. And so it's very important that as parents that we do our part to make our children safe online as well. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions?
I don't know if one of the women could talk to, if a human trafficking victim is watching this, is there a way you can reassure them that if they come forward, how can they know they'll be safe and their life will get better?
Go ahead. Well, it takes time, and so that's part of it. It's coming forward is the hardest part. Being able to stand up to someone who has abused you for so long and really has mind control over you. And so being able to take that first step is the hardest part. There are great services. Sail of Freedom is here. We also have Heartland for Children was with us, and we also had Children's Home Society with us. There are great providers in the community who are able to step up and walk alongside them and do all of the things that have to be done. Some things might be you have to turn yourself in for something if there's a warrant out for your arrest. Some things might be you don't have housing, and so the trafficker controls everything and you need help finding housing. We can all help with that. We work in conjunction with all the service providers in the state of Florida to provide whatever that person might need as he or she comes forward.
It's also important to point out that we have this wonderful law in Florida that even if you're arrested for prostitution, once we determine that you're the victim of human trafficking as you move through and receive services. And that arrest and any evidence of it by law has to be wiped out. So when we identify these folks, then, and they are victims of human trafficking, and they agree to the wraparound services that we're going to give them for free, then all evidence of that arrest, from the police report to the original case number to the photographs and the fingerprints, can all disappear. So there's a perfect opportunity for us, the government system, and us, the public's, the private system, to say, look, we're all in this with you to save you from this environment. All you've got to do is cooperate. Any other questions?
It was mentioned a lot of these were through social media. Was it just your standard apps, Facebook, Instagram, or were there other apps like maybe parents should be looking out for?
Thank you. First and foremost, it's apps where they're most likely to be able to interact with someone their age or someone interested in what they do. For example, the traditional prostitution apps you'll find in one area. You'll find our sexual predators prowling for children in apps that are of interest to children. So we are there undercover every day searching out those predators. So they need not to relax and say, oh, I got away with it. No, it's no tricks, no treats. Well, the reality of it is, this is not the last time we're going to do this until the next Halloween. No, this is what we do every day. And then we partner with our police departments. And once again, this is a banner operation. This is unbelievable. This is euphoric for those of us in law enforcement. We identified 3 potential victims of human trafficking that we're able to immediately, the second they show up and we take them in custody from the event, get services. And we found 2 child predators who are very deviant, very dangerous people for children. This was a huge, huge, huge operation for us. Any questions? Thank you all very much. Have a good day.